Hello, my loves, and welcome to the Feminine Legacy Podcast. This is your host, Jacqueline Hyacinth, and I am thrilled to be inviting DeAnna Lam, who is a foremother of what I would refer to as the ancient mysteries. She is a pioneer of menstrual empowerment and is a womb visionary and somebody that I have looked to in my earlier stages of looking to empower myself that I found you, and I'm so grateful to have you now sitting with me as I continue to deepen in my own work. And really, you like led the way for my generation to serve. So I'm so grateful. So thank you and welcome to the show.
Thank you for your warm words and for your work in the world and spreading the vision. It's a joy to be here. I love it.
I love it too. So I've actually never heard your story. Would you be open to just kind of like sharing some of like how did this calling of this womb wisdom and this desire to serve women and humanity in this way come like arise for you?
Mm. So 92, 93, about then, I was happy in my relationship that is still going strong and to this day, and in my work, and everything was hunky-dory for 3 weeks out of the month. And every month I would become a basket case and just emotional roller coaster. I didn't have much physical symptoms, but my emotions were up and down and all around and shook me to the core every month. And I was very irritable and very angry and very explosive. And I remember my partner asking me, "Why are you taking it on me? I understand that this is exploding in you." And I said, "Well, you are here. You're the closest person. Who else am I going to take this on?" And I thought it's impossible that nature created half of the human race to suffer every month. It just didn't compute. So I'm going to look and see how indigenous cultures have held menstruation. So that's how I started researching. And I came to treasures upon treasures of wisdom of indigenous cultures all over the world that held menstruation as the time in which the veil between the worlds is thinnest, when we are closest to spirit, when we are oracles to our tribes in olden days. And I started taking time off for myself, as women in indigenous cultures did. And what happened was amazing, because as soon as I closed the door, there was no one to be irritable with. I wasn't irritable anymore. It wasn't at all something that was built in. It was something that rubbing against people and plans and circumstances and events aggravated that in myself. And if I gave myself permission to be quiet and to not rub against anything and anyone, it became quiet. So that's how it started. And it led me to shift my focus, because at the time I was working with couples. Primarily, I was trained in mediation and conflict resolution, and I had a big practice of couples relationship skills and conflict resolution. And I thought about the fact that there are many people who specialize in communication, but hardly anyone. In 92, 93, no one was saying the word menstruation out loud. So no one was doing that work. So I thought I can let go of the communication work and leave it to others and do what I'm pioneering, because if it helps me so much, there are so many women that it can help. And that's how it started.
How beautiful. How beautiful. Yes, I find that most women that come to the work, it's normally because something is wrong, like something is impacting them. For me, I had a big issue with fibroids, and like there was always a journey for me, whether it was motherhood, fibroids, womb. It was like consistently,
Yeah.
this is the center of focus. This is your primary focus in this life. And so I find that women, when they come, it's either because they have menstrual pain, they want to have a baby, they are not feeling fulfilled in sex, like everything relational to the way in which we're experiencing life and our wombs.
That, and I would add to this, women
Yeah,
arrive to
please.
me with that, with all of those symptoms or challenges in their lives, and the fact that they don't know how to welcome their girls into womanhood. Mothers of daughters
Ah,
are saying, I have not been welcomed, never mind, I forgot mine, but now what about my daughter?
mm.
And I'm always saying, not never mind about you. We're going to start
Yeah.
with you because in order to do anything with your daughter, you have to heal your own adolescence. It's not something that we can skip and just go to your daughter.
I love that. First, I want to acknowledge the consciousness that's arising in those women to heal themselves, and their daughter is just the prompt, right?
Yes,
And
yes,
and it just goes to show you the distortion sort of in our culture around like women are second. Like we want to do everything for everybody else first. Like that's the
yes.
condition, right? And then that's part of the issue, right? And then you and me pointing them back to you're actually the center of it all. And the reason that you're the center. You're the center of your own life.
You are, and you are a model because until you heal, you're modeling to your daughter how you don't take care of yourself and don't take permission for self-care and don't love yourself. So you are educating her regardless of anything. So you might as well heal yourself and educate her properly
Yeah.
in modeling good ways of being true to yourself rather than saying, never mind me, let's do something for her, because in that there is education.
Absolutely. And I'm sure you agree with me too, that there's a difference, education and wisdom.
Yes,
Right. So it's like first coming, it starts with the education of like, oh, this is how my cycle actually work. This is how hormones operate. This is what happens to me when I take time for myself and I create space for me to be the center. And then there's this alchemy that happens. And through the practice of creating a space for us to become the center, all this opens. And then that
yes,
becomes the soup of wisdom. And we
yes.
can really only impart, like, there's a lot of people on the planet, and I'm grateful to them that are imparting knowledge that just have like the fundamentals of like, hey, this is what's happening during your cycle, and they're looking at it from the scientific perspective. But you and I, that's not our bowl. It's
It's
the
not.
it's not that those are names for things, and what we want is like the alchemy and the pursuit of the wisdom that is inherent, the psychological power that is open in women when we dive into those spaces and receive of ourselves.
Absolutely. And then I feel that the line between education and wisdom blurs because when you live your wisdom and you live the alchemical process, this radiates as a model. So
Mm,
that becomes education because your daughter sees you. How many of us saw our mothers? I never saw my mother take care of herself and
mm,
say, I'm going to close the door and take some time for me to rest. Never, ever. But
yeah.
if she does, or when she does, or when I do that, and my daughter has been seeing me ever since she was young, then it became a model. Maybe modeling is a better way than education.
Hmm. Yeah, I
Living
love
our
that too.
wisdom becomes modeling, and they learn from
Absolutely.
that.
I love that. Yeah, because we're always watching, right? We're
Yes,
like little sponges and we're sucking in what's happening
yes,
around us. Just like we obviously were watching our mothers and either the deprivation that they were experiencing in their own womanhood or however it was that they were modeling their own challenges in their lives. I know for me, my son has watched a lot of that deprivation. It wasn't until he became older that he started to see this, another facet of that experience. But they carry that.
yes, yes. And what a gift we are giving to them when we gift ourselves.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah, yeah.
Agreed.
And I'm so delighted to know that you are influencing a boy, a son, because most of the women that come to me are mothers of daughters, and the mothers of sons are so important to the next generation in the world. This is
I
sacred
agree.
work.
Thank you. Yeah, it really is. It is something that we need to experience, not just for like everything is like daughters, daughters, and this respect and the understanding that we are cultivating these men. We are
Yes,
growing these men that are going to support and anchor and hold family. And
yes,
It's really not recognized enough. So it's like it's this rally for family, for life. It's every woman impacts so many others.
Yeah, because those boys will partner with women, would raise girls,
Yeah.
will be in the life of women and girls, and we can't have them staying in the dark. We just,
No, we cannot.
yeah, yeah.
It really touches me and makes me feel, which I know because you've been so steadfast in it. It's such powerful and important work. And it can seem so ordinary and so regular because everybody's doing it, right? Everybody's menstruating and everybody who is giving birth is giving birth. But it's the most spectacular journey, and it feeds and nourishes everything else. And our society is like bereft with this lack of care and sense of inner knowing. And
Mm,
so I know I personally have taken it for granted within myself, right? Because what percentage are we really on the planet that like is truly like embodied in this and carries this sense of what I feel like is the true currency, like the
yeah,
real prosperity of wealth.
yeah.
So any way that I like put that down in any way and just I really it's so beautiful.
Mm. I would add to this, other than the
Please
true
add.
honesty and true prosperity, it's also the true pulse of time. This is what keeps time ticking. It's the
Oh,
lunar, it's the monthly beat.
yeah.
And the fact that we all do that is we're taking it for granted because, or most women do because this is so prevalent and every woman does it. But the fact that every woman does it makes it the common denominator that connects us and bonds us as women around the world, regardless of our nationality or religion or politics. I'm coming from Israel, where there is war all the time. And when we sat with Jewish and Palestinian women, Jewish and Arab women, and talked about the blood, we realized that all the rest of the divisions are just melting into nothing. There is nothing that divides us when we become one in the cyclicity that we all share. So it's a bond that we share with all women around the world.
Thank you for that. That's
Mm.
such beautiful medicine.
Mm. And when we remember that and connect around our cyclicity, it's been said so often by the Dalai Lama and others that women are now going to be leading the way. This is what bonds us. This is how we can lead together as women who are one in that pulse of time, in that currency of cyclicity that we all share.
So beautiful.
Mm.
So tell me something. I really want to like lean into your wisdom about this. So as far as knowing, right, that we have generations of young girls who there's a lot going on the planet, right? We understand that there are lots of little people and bodies that are not happy to be in their female bodies.
Mm.
And that's obviously always been the case to a certain degree, but I sense that's ramping up a little bit with so much healing and so much trauma being like released on the planet. And this call for young girls to be initiated, like we're really trying to kind of heal and harmonize generations to support them to step into a place where they have a space, like where they
Yeah.
know they have a space in the circle.
Yes.
And I often weave and think about like, how do we do this in the modern world, right? How do I continue to like not do it from my way, but do it in a way that is like what each person needs. Like when a young woman comes and she's 12 years old and she's like huge breasts and a big tush and she's growing her estrogen, she's like a little mama. But her psychology is obviously so young and underdeveloped. So she just doesn't have yet the cognitive skills. She doesn't have the ability yet to go with that body, right? Because
Yes.
everybody's bleeding so young.
Yes.
And so this like making it playful, making it so like making it not imposing my views of the, the sanctity. Like we have to really watch our language and like be able to support them in a way like what will work for each one. And so I'm always navigating with that. Like, how do I prepare and support this one? Like, this child is rejecting. This child doesn't want to have a rite of passage and wear the red dress and do the thing, right? Some girls will love that, and others do not want that.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, always, I don't know, do you come across that, this like fine tuning of like how to meet people where they are and still instill the little mustard seed that we pray will grow
Yes.
into
Yes.
a ripe plant.
So I have a couple of things I want to say. So
Please.
one is that I find that it's the girls that don't want to wear the red dress and don't want to have the big fuss is often invoked or triggered by how mom is offering it. For
Mhm.
you, it's going to be something different. I never had it, but for you, it's going to be the rest of your life. You're going to remember this day. It's going to be what such a wonderful day. And she's like, no, get away from me, mom. Enough. And there is very much wisdom in her saying no, because what she's sensing is the wound of mother who has not been welcomed into womanhood when she was a maiden. And she wants to heal through her daughter's ceremony. She
Mhm.
doesn't have all these informational details in her mind, but she nevertheless energetically realizes that it's not hers to carry. So my message here to the moms is go gather with other women, adult women, heal your adolescent wounds, and then come to your daughter not from a place of imposing, but from a place of invitational, optional ceremony, and start with telling the story of how your first blood was. How are you feeling awkward as a teenager? And not expecting her to share, not expecting her to do anything, just sharing. And often the girls are starting to be very curious and interested. Oh, my mama was once my age. What a revelation. And she felt awkward too. So I really see the resistance as often being triggered by mom's wound. So that's one thing that I wanted to say. And the other thing I wanted to say in relation to your comment is that going back to that common thread, that common denominator, that the girl with the big breast and the big tushy and the one with the flat breast and flat tushy, to bring to their attention, as much as we want to support each one individually, to bring to their attention this is something we're all in together. We
Mm.
might have big breast or small breast, big tushy or bad small. We might have not started, or we might wait for another year to start, but there is something that we share. And with this individuation, we have gone to the culture of the individual very, very, very much to an extreme of the me. And there is the we.
Mm.
And when there is the we and we all pulse with this rhythm, it doesn't matter that she has bigger tushies and I have smaller. It doesn't matter how we look and when we started, because we are sharing something so profoundly together. And that is a message that I think is important for us to bring to counter some of that individuation that is gone a little bit awry.
Oh, that's so powerful. Thank you for that. Really, really deep and succinct medicine.
Mm,
Yeah, really beautiful. Thank you.
mm,
I love that. And I love that bringing it back to mom again.
yeah.
Like bringing it always back. It's like sometimes I have moms that come because their children are struggling, like teenagers, and they're
Yeah.
just not able to, yeah, we know it's challenging raising children, right? And all the while we're healing ourselves and trying to, support an infrastructure for the new generation, but we haven't yet established it within ourselves. And so it's really challenging, but it is so beautiful to just bring that love back to the mother always coming back to finding the space because it's like center stage for
Yeah.
all the others.
Yeah. and to give her permission to not heal through her daughter,
Yeah.
but through herself and for herself, and that in itself would be medicine for her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
Because often the belief is that her time is gone,
Yeah.
that opportunity has been missed, and now she's going to heal, she's going to get a little crumb off her daughter's ceremonial table. No, we can have hope
No,
for you.
no. Yeah. Oh, so beautiful.
Hmm.
I love that. So I'm curious, as far as your partner, so you've been walking this path a long time.
Yes,
Obviously, he's a pretty special man.
we're going to celebrate 34 years this summer.
Wow, that's incredible. And so, like, do you feel the support within the relationship with him that really like kind of gives a soft infrastructure for you to do the work? Like, how does it feel? I'm assuming it's very healing. I haven't been married, and I don't have a steady partner that is like in it for me and supporting the work of this, this global movement.
Hmm.
Oh, this global movement of love. So I'm just so curious. It's like, what does it feel like to have grown now in partnership with somebody who loves and supports you in this type of a way, for you to shine this and bring this medicine? Is that a
Yeah,
weird question or does it make sense?
no, it makes sense. It feels like I can lean back,
Hmm.
like there is something, someone that I can lean back on, and it feels like being seen.
Hmm.
Feels like being seen. Yeah. And I have to say, as I was saying earlier about the fact that when I was suffering with my emotional roller coaster during my period, it was mostly him that was on the receiving end of the wrath. That he got from the very get-go that for me to heal myself and have time for myself benefits him as well. He got that.
Hmm.
Realized that the alternative was for me to bite his head off. So what's good about that? Whereas if
Exactly.
I retreat and withdraw and take time to replenish, then we both can thrive. So the support was just given because there was no other way that was making sense for both of us.
That's so beautiful.
Mm,
Yeah, I'm so happy that you're supported in that way.
thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah. So when, what would you say, like, as far as like initial, for somebody who's new? Like, obviously, maybe they're not new to menstruating, obviously, but women come and I want to say oftentimes they're unwell because they're just not deeply connected to the nature of their time clock, and they're not feeling open or nourished.
Mm.
So for you in that walk with them, like what would you say is like the first primary steps of acknowledging and coming into the space of deeper awareness and healing?
So for me, the kernel, the seed is the time, the story of our first blood. Because that story often, more often than not, is never told.
Yeah.
We tell stories in women's groups and in women's circles and to women's friends, among women friends, we share stories of first sexual experiences, abuse, rape, molestation, renewal, healing, the courage to heal. But in between all of these stories, the story of the first blood is often silent. We were alone when we first started bleeding, and we carried that story alone within us. It's very much my experience that within the healing professions, the psychological journeys, women often have done healings for their inner girl, and women often have done healing of their adult woman to empower and create assertiveness and power in their adult life. And there is this middle section in the center of their adolescence, of the time of the first blood, of the inner maiden, that is blind spotted, that no one deals with. So that's where I start working with women, and that's where I invite women to start the journey, is to look at the story of their first blood. And if they don't remember the actual very first day, then the first instances of menstruating that they remember, because there is so much to heal there. There is so much longing there. The inner maiden is still there, waiting in the cellar, alone in the darkness, and waiting to be seen and pulled out and healed. So that's where I would recommend that we all start.
Yeah, I'm with you. It's such a potent, it is such a potent time.
Mm,
It is so beautiful. And it's so amazing that because there is no space and time, that we can go back into the
yes,
cells of our DNA and our memory and retrieve what
yes,
what we have not accessed before or what we were not aware of, and open those doorways again. And it is like, it is so underestimated. Like, it is literally, I know you know this, but for those that are listening, it is like this, the gift that keeps giving, and it is like the eternal secret.
yes.
Because if the world knew, right, if all the mainstream wellness, like if all the world knew, everybody would be doing it, because
Right?
it changes
Yes,
the way we cycle monthly.
yes,
Like,
yes.
I've taken women into like a regression and opened up that space, and then they bleed differently every month. Some of them
I know
completely
it.
stop having pain, and it's like, what?
Yes, 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 yes. That's my experience over the years, again and again. And it leads me to say that it's never too late to celebrate your first menstrual blood, even if you're beyond menopause. It's never too late to heal that first blood experience and to be welcomed into womanhood, regardless of your age.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
And how beautiful if we're able, like, obviously we have to do it when it's right for us, right? Each one of us is on our own time. So a woman might come in her teens, a woman might come in adulthood in her 20s, 30s, 40s. I want to, obviously, I have a prayer for humanity that the women, I'm grateful the women are coming to me in their 40s and reclaiming this, but how wonderful it would be if they spent their whole cyclical lives loving being a woman,
Yes,
right? That's
yes,
like,
yes, yes, yes. But I really want to say it's never too late, because I have women come to me that are beyond menopause and they are heartbroken that they haven't had this revelation while they were bleeding. So there is a learning there for young women to start early, but there is also a learning there for women that are beyond menopause, that it's never too late, and we can have the healing ceremony you never had even
mhm.
post menopause, because you are still alive, and as long as we are here,
The
we
story isn't over.
exactly. Yeah,
I
yeah,
love that. Yeah, so I have not yet gone into menopause. I'm looking forward, but I'm also like, since I'm right at the, I don't even know that I'm at the cusp, but right, I'm 48 years old, and I'm so every cycle, every menstruation, I'm like, thank you so much. What are we
yeah,
gonna do this month? And this gratitude of like, I don't know how long this is gonna be with me,
yeah. But I
right?
know it's not going to be forever.
It's definitely not going to be forever. So let me treasure it and nurture whatever we need to do now. Let's do this dance so that we lay the groundwork for the health and the vitality for the next phase,
Yes.
which I don't know what that will look like. So I would love to hear for you, moving from this transition as a woman who is rooted in her menstruation and in her, I want to say womanhood, like the fullness of the journey. I know it never ends, and we're still doing it, and we're still becoming more of ourselves every day. But as somebody who was really centered in devotion to life in this way, how do you feel that prepared you for your journey through menopause?
So I want to say a few things. One is that because I wasn't welcomed into womanhood as a maiden, I looked forward to my menopause as the opportunity of being welcomed into the wisdom years and being able to celebrate it and have a ceremony, a ritual, consciously transitioning into the next phase that would also reflect on the ceremony I never had when I started. So I had an opportunity. I realized there is an opportunity of repair there in that way. So inviting us towards menopause, those women who are walking towards menopause, no matter how many years down the line it is, to look at it as an opportunity to be consciously transitioning through this rite of passage if we hadn't had a conscious transition in our first rite of passage into the bleeding years. That's one thing I wanted to say. The other thing that I think is less commonly known is that even when we stop bleeding from our womb, we're still cyclical.
Mm-hmm.
From the time of our first blood until the last breath we take, we are cyclical, we are lunar, we pulse with the moon, we expand and contract with the moon, even when our womb no longer bleeds. Our womb in indigenous cultures is considered to be holding its blood and its magic within.
Mm-hmm.
But we are still cyclical. We're not becoming linear all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So that's something that even women who never had the opportunity of connecting to the wisdom of the cycle when they bled, that's something that can be still embraced. The cyclicity, the expansion, contraction, the connection to the lunar cycle is something that is who we are and how we are hardwired for the rest of our lives.
It's so incredible. It's like we're born on the planet and we are not, our rhythm isn't revealed to us by our families or communities. It's like a top secret, right? There's sadness in that, and also it's funny when you think about like how did we come up with this? And then we have to go on this journey to figure out our own beats and access our own rhythm.
Yes, yes.
It's
I
yeah.
wanted to say one more thing for your journey towards menopause. My journey took me from when I was 49 is when I started seeing shifts, and I stopped bleeding when I was 55. So there is no
Okay.
hard and fast rule. Some women take longer, some women take shorter, but it's a journey. It's not one fell swoop. But one thing that I realized, especially because I was so rooted in my menstrual cycle, is that the time of the in-between, the perimenopause, when there were cycles that were clockwork like always, and there were cycles where I skipped 3 months or had 2 cycles in a month, or then skipped 4 months, had periods of 13 days in a row. What I learned is that everything and anything that I learned to count on during my bleeding years was no longer something to count on. Everything was thrown up in the air. It was a training in being in the moment. I
Wow.
couldn't be predicting anything. It wasn't going to be in 4 weeks, you're going to have a cycle. It's going to be that many days. It's going to feel that way. It changed and shifted all the time. And that's what I see it as a training in being in the moment, a training of letting go of the training wheels, no longer knowing what to expect, and being rolling with the punches, being in the moment as a preparation towards our wisdom years. We can't be coming, we know it all. We've cycled and we know our cycle. So fine, I'm going to move to the next stage. No, you have to be, the rug needs to be pulled from under you completely in order to become wise woman into your wisdom years.
So much to look forward to. And did you
We have to come
find
back. We
we
have to come
do?
back to not knowing.
Yeah, as is the nature of life. To be in a female body, it's like literally, it's like a magic carpet. There's so much going on all the time, so
Yeah.
much to weave and move through. Did you find on your body physically, was it very challenging for you in that transition? Like aside from the mental, the spiritual, the emotional, there's a lot happening as you're moving through, I'm sure. But physically, did you fare well?
Yeah, I didn't feel it. Physically, it didn't feel that challenging. It felt unpredictable. I would say the kernel word for me was unpredictability
Okay.
rather than difficulty. It wasn't that
Okay.
difficult physically. It was just completely unpredictable. Yeah. And
Yeah.
humbling, therefore humbling.
Yeah, I would imagine so. I would imagine so. I'm, looking at a lot of women coming, a lot of depression, a lot of different faces of experience that are not people are not really aware that they're happening during menopause, right?
Mm,
So that they're in this transition too, and it's like, no, you're not mentally unwell. You're like all of these things. There's a much bigger infrastructure that's being
yeah,
turned upside down, so to speak.
yeah, yeah.
And I don't think, as always, our medical system is cued in or knows enough to understand. Which I want to. I know you want. There was something you wanted to say, and then I want to ask you something about hormones, if I can.
Yes, of course. I wanted to say that there are two books that I wanted to put forward that helped me. One of them was Susan Weed's book, The Menopausal Years, that was very helpful, and that's her wisdom is of
Yeah.
herbal wisdom rather than conventional wisdom. So that was
Mm-hmm.
very helpful. And another one is called Menopause with Science and Soul.
Mm.
Menopause with Science and Soul, and it's Judith Boyce.
Okay.
And these were opening horizons for me that were so different than conventional medicine would have us think. The conventional world is you're doomed if you do and you're doomed if you don't. You're doomed when you bleed and you're doomed when you don't. You're crazy either way. You're on the rag or you're crazy because you're not. So that's not something we want to subscribe to.
No, we definitely do not want to subscribe to that.
But those two books are very, well, for me, were very helpful, and I want to put them out there as a perspective that for you and for anyone else.
Oh, that's beautiful. Thank you for that. Yeah, it's such a powerful ride. So I've been, looking at preparing myself personally, right? As so I make all these beautiful medicines with wild yam and like I'm just stabilizing my hormones and playing and like loving the dance of being bringing in herbal medicine to support my cycles and obviously offering the women who are coming that their cycles are not in rhythm and they need to get cued in. And there's so much talk right now and has been for some time around hormone replacement therapy, and I'm not somebody who moves in those circles. And I want so much for us to get back into relationship with nature and do this dance the best that we can, as natural as possible, and draw on the medicine because I am sad and a little bit fearful around the damage that is occurring
Yeah,
in our ancestral lineages and what we're passing down to our children unnecessarily through the use of birth control and pharmaceuticals, which I partook in when I was younger because no one was there to, you know, to,
yeah,
to usher in and share those teachings. So now I'm like, oh, I know better. We're going to do better. Right. And
yeah.
so, honeys, you don't have to do that. There's another way. But like, as far as, would you say that you feel like it's true that interfering with synthetics, like what's your heart's feel on that?
I wrote a blog post about that, and
Would you?
my main thought about that is how about if we were to stop the rain because it's inconvenient to go out in the rain and get wet? So it's a parallel to it's inconvenient. It doesn't feel comfortable to bleed. I don't know how to deal with that. I want to do away with it. To think about the very short period of time in which the whole world would be disrupted if we stopped the rain. The growth, the life on Earth as we know it would stop growing just because we don't want to get wet and it's inconvenient to us. So I think it's much more enticing, I would say, to love, to learn how to love our cycle and to dance with it and to expand and contract with it rather than to cut something so violently that is some part of our biological makeup, of our soul makeup, of our psyche makeup, just because it's uncomfortable.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm with you in that. And how, I mean, our culture is pretty much looking for instant fixes.
Yes.
right? So then when we get those instant fixes, there we're not able to learn and grow. We learn and grow through different lessons, but we don't necessarily grow through the natural primordial expression of what we chose this particular vehicle and body for, right?
Yes.
The gifts and the time clocks and all the things that our grandmothers and great grandmothers left for us, and
Yeah.
that we came into, yeah, to bring forth medicine into.
Yeah. That we can reclaim that and learn how to dance with it. That's the best word I can
Yeah,
describe it, is learn how to dance with it. Having said all of that, if women come to my circles that are choosing hormonal replacement therapy, I don't want to shame them. I don't want to
yeah,
shun them. And I accept that as a gift or as a choice that a woman makes for herself. But I would like to encourage women who make that choice to be really educated about,
yeah.
one, the side effects and the price that they would pay, and two, about what the alternatives are in doing it naturally.
Hmm.
If you still want to do it, that's your choice.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, it's definitely not a shame game, but it's just I find that most people who opt in, we're not being told the whole story.
Right.
Right. So it's like we sign on the dotted line and say yes to the thing for relief, but we're unaware of like the ramifications of cancer 10 years later, or like all of the blind spots
Yes.
that can potentially obviously be harmful to us or our lineages.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I invite women to learn as much as possible about side effects, like you said, and about the fact that since the beginning of time, women went through these changes without any medical intervention. There
Yeah.
must be wisdom in that.
God. Yeah.
Mm,
It's like this psychosis that women are a problem, right? It's like
yeah,
first it's
yeah,
the bleeding that's a problem, then this horrible thing, menopause, it's a problem, age is like everything's a freaking
yeah,
problem.
exactly, exactly.
And
Yeah.
everything is actually a gift. There's so much spiritual
Yes.
power.
And everything that in indigenous cultures was sacred is now cursed and
Yeah,
feared of. Menstruation, menopause, and everything in between. It's old age.
yeah,
Oh,
yep.
the
And
women,
become even getting pregnant. Like, I mean, just everything is like,
yeah, yeah, yeah. And I'm thinking it's in opposite relation. So the more sacred something was, the more cursed it is now.
yeah,
Because menstruation was sacred and old age was sacred. So the wise wisdom of the elders, the 13 grandmother circles,
mhm.
now old women are the lowest of the low. So it's like really reversing that from what was up outmost respected is now the least respected.
Mm,
And
yeah.
we can reverse it back.
We're reversing it back. We're doing
Yes,
it.
we are.
Yes.
We are doing it.
We are totally doing it. Yeah.
Yes. Mm.
May I mention that you had a birthday yesterday?
Yes.
And when I first came on the call with DeAnna, I said happy birthday and asked her age. And I find it's so beautiful to ask women how old they are. And in our culture, it's like, don't do that. Like should not ask women. And I think that's ridiculous. I think it's the most beautiful gift to just honor where you are in your life. It doesn't mean we have to own what it means. Like it is a cycle number. And
Yes.
to be alive and to every day that we're alive is another day that we're here. And I think there's such beauty in that. So just celebrating how amazing it is that that you and me, we're going to be able to grow into eldership and celebrate that we're alive and that we've carried all this
Yes.
stuff and that we're here.
Yes. 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 And since you brought it up, I'll say the answer I gave you that My mom, when we were growing up, my mom always wanted us to lie about her age. She used to say to us, to my brother and I, I'm 40, but if anyone asks, say 35. And I remember that when she said that, my heart cringed, and I vowed to myself as a girl that I'm never going to be lying about my age. So yesterday I turned 66, and I love the geometrical symmetry of 66. And unlike the linear age that women are afraid of, oh, it's a line that goes forward, it's 66 cycles around the sun. It's
Mm.
66 cyclical journeys that I've had. It's not a linear journey.
Hmm. Oh, it's so loving. It's like it just makes a heartbeat when you speak about it in that way. It just brings so much life and fullness into the space.
Mm,
These are just, I mean, these simple realities, these simple truths that you're sharing, and just the buoyancy and beauty of what is alive in these reflections around the we and
mm,
the cyclical embodiment of like dancing together with life and moving around the sun and appreciating the maiden and the bleeding woman and the mother and then this elder. It's like everything is so much more relational.
yes,
It's like
yeah,
all the fractals come together.
yeah, it's a spiral.
It
The
is.
maiden is within us, the girl is within us, the bleeding woman is within us, the generations of our ancestors are within us. It's a spiral.
It is. It's such a deeply divinely humanizing
Mm,
experience.
mm,
And so, yeah, it's my prayer that more and more women choose and decide to nurture, to love themselves and set out on a pathway to
mhm.
reconcile what is true.
Yes. And to realize that this is something that we are reclaiming together as a womankind
Yeah. Yeah.
on this in these times on earth.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in that, it just makes me again lean into the men because they have a place with us. Like they
Mm,
have such a powerful place with us beside us because this like remembering that we are birthing them.
mm,
And there's a responsibility in that tending, like tending ourselves and the responsibility to, we're part of the generations, in this whole world where it's like raging against the patriarchy. It's like it cannot be this way anymore. We have to come into the rhythm
yes.
in order
And
for us. Yeah.
no, yeah, finish your
It's
sentence.
okay. Just in order for us to live well, like
Yeah,
to be here.
yes. What I was wanting to add is that for men, patriarchy is a straitjacket as well for most men.
Absolutely.
They are oppressed by it in maybe not as women are, but they are oppressed by it. They're not all up on top having all the power, but they are deprived of their emotions, their emotional life and ability to express their emotions, to mention but one aspect.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely agreed. And I've even been revisiting the languaging, like the word patriarchy, because I revere the matriarchy so deeply and I honor that. I also realize what we're actually talking about is the shadow side of the patriarchy, but patriarchy to have divine fathers who are
Yeah.
in their right manhood and who are connected, supported, and strengthened. I mean, these are our fathers and grandfathers, and they also deserve our respect and our care. And I'm just leaning in for myself and for the women's movements as we deepen into ourselves. It's deepening into us, but it's not separating from them. It's
Yes.
actually right, like rewiring or relinking. We do have to process, pain and ancestral terrain that has not yet been absolved. But
Yes.
this feeling of like we need to come together because if we hate men, we hate our husbands, how do we make the babies? And it really proliferates and creates this identity in this world structure of like IVF, and everything becomes unnatural, so to speak. Everything becomes lab based, and we lose that natural love
Yes.
of support and strength that happens through the divine union.
Yes. I want to say a couple of things in relation to
Please.
one is that I like to think of matrilineal ancient cultures rather than matriarchal.
Hmm.
I don't think of it as
Okay.
matriarchy because matrilineal talks about the fact that the line of property and wisdom was passed through the mother, from mother to daughter, while the word matriarchy has hierarchy in it, as if matriarchy was exactly like patriarchy, but in reverse.
Hmm.
Men oppressing women in matriarchy, women oppressed men. I don't think that's how it was. There was a lineage that passed through mothers and daughters, and I think it's an important distinction. For me, it is an important
Yes.
distinction. It's one thing I wanted to say. And the other is that in the same way that we are lunar and we expand and contract with the moon, men are solar. There is a linearity to the sun, so there is both femininity and masculinity have shadows in them. So we're looking at the light side. So the light side of masculinity is the sun. The rays of the sun pierce through illusions. They are really focused on a goal and reach that goal and don't waver. They don't expand and contract. The sun is dependable. We never think there's going to be a sliver of the sun. There is a dependability and a predictability and a continuity that are the essence of the sun and of light masculinity as opposed to the shadow. So I'm enjoying thinking about masculinity and femininity as lunar and solar as opposed to matriarchy or patriarchy.
I like that. Thank you for that distinction. It's really beautiful. It feels fluid and softer, and it's also, it feels like it has a different place